Good morning. It is Wednesday, April the 27th, 2022. I'm Pearson Bowen in for Shane Seeley today. We begin with the news on the morning report that Barbadian students now have another avenue for attaining scholarships in North America. The Reverend Dr. Darren Morton, controller for the city of Mount Vernon in New York, is working with students mainly from the Pine area to secure these athletic scholarships. Mount Vernon is a city just outside of the Bronx and is home to many Barbadians living in the Big Apple. The scholarship initiative was first attempted in 2017, but was put on pause owing to COVID-19. Dr. Morton is with us now on the Morning Report for an update on that project, and he's also telling us how the city is dealing with the pandemic. Good morning to you, Dr. Morton.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Report. Now, Morton is not a familiar Bajan name. So can you give us a sense of, your locale, where you're from, essentially?
Yeah, well, actually, I am originally from Mount Vernon, New York. Even though my family pretty much descends from North Carolina. But I've spent the majority of my life in Mount Vernon or in the New York metropolitan area.
I started there because I'm trying to get a sense of why reach into Barbados, particularly into the Pine area, to offer these scholarships.
Well, several years ago, actually, we started a relationship with the Pinelands area. The students there, basketball. Mount Vernon is known for its basketball team for the championships in which it has won, the number of students in which we have sent off to college and who have also played in the NBA. And so, through a relationship that developed with Reverend Tanis and also our former mayor, Richard Thomas, 2 years, we also had students coming from the Pinelands area. They came to, one, do some basketball training as well as also compete in some basketball tournaments in which even one of those they actually won some of those, and so through that relationship we began to talk about how we can further their opportunities in basketball as well as in education, and I guess that ties into my my career. I spent over 18 years in working in higher education, particularly at St. John's University, which is also an institution that is known for its basketball team as well. So that's how we developed this relationship.
Clearly, you put a lot of emphasis on sport and how it develops the overall person and the opportunities that flow therefrom as it relates to their education, which is also in concert with. So for those in the Pine who are watching this morning and are looking at this opportunity, what are the levels of eligibility that they would need to attain so that they themselves, with you, can attain this scholarship?
Well, I think first of all, we want to make sure that we emphasize that it is an opportunity for student athletes, which means that, one, we want young people to focus on their education while also balancing their development of their basketball or their sports skills. It's not just about basketball, it also because it is about sports. And so, being a sports person, you have to also make sure that you understand how to follow instruction, how to also improve your education and your knowledge, and also your skill set. And so, for those young people who are looking for these types of opportunities, the first thing to do is to focus in and make sure that you're doing the very best that you can in your educational process. And then, secondly, also to be able to hone your particular sports skill, whatever that sports skill is. And I think that following after the instructions of the coaches and the managers of these particular sports industries will help to ensure that they have a greater possibility and opportunities for what may lie available for them in North America.
Now, A typical Barbadian reaction by a parent is, but listen, I'm not sending my child to New York, which is known as one of those places where COVID is rampant. And so there's a little bit of hesitance. What assurances and what are you doing in Mount Vernon in particular as you battle COVID-19 so that a parent feels a lot more comfortable in saying, yes, you can go for the scholarship?
Well, it's interesting. In Mount Vernon ourselves, we've done a very good job at keeping the number of infections low in Mount Vernon. The number of cases have been managed very well given our, populace. We've got a very low number of cases in Mount Vernon. We also are, but beyond Mount Vernon, now in New York, what we are doing is making sure that, of course, we are constantly testing individuals. We have very specific protocols for folks to be able to get it to gather in particular gatherings where we often find that COVID actually spreads fast, right? And so we are actually on the down tick, I guess, as they would call it in our particular area. But most importantly, I think for the parents, it's about what are they doing at college campuses for students. And I think at college campuses, they have even more strict regulations around the vaccine and about who can attend school, as well as how often they are actually testing individuals and who are on the campus who come into close proximity with one another. And so I think that probably the safest places for our young people actually are on the college campuses, where they will have all of the resources to ensure that they continue to keep good health and stay away from COVID as much as possible.
Very quickly, just let us know how young people today can make themselves available to get these scholarships. What's the process?
Well, I think the first process is for them to make connection with the local, leaders here, namely also Reverend Patrick Tanis and the Pylands team there, so that they could know who they are. And then as we continue to develop what are going to be the pathways for them to be able to want to apply for institutions, I think identify what institutions also they wish for us to kind of build the relationships with and develop relationships with, that will help us also hone in on those particular areas where these students wish to go.
Great. You have to leave it right there. The Reverend Dr. Darren Morton, who's the controller for the City of Mount Vernon in New York, and the scholarship opportunities available to young people, particularly in the Pine right now, to play the game of basketball in New York. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, and much success with the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Still to come on the morning report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Russian president agrees in principle to UN involvement in the evacuation of civilians in the war in Ukraine. Right after this. The new COVID-19 numbers have jumped beyond 500. The Best Dos Santos Public Health Lab has identified 506 new cases, 226 males and 280 females from the 1,656 tests carried out on Monday. The bulk of the cases, 402, comprised those 18 years or older. There are 90 people in isolation facilities, while 3,330 are in home isolation. News from abroad now. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has tested positive for COVID-19, becoming the latest top official in Washington to contract the coronavirus.
The White House says she's in isolation and will continue to work from home. Harris, who recently returned from a week-long trip to California, hasn't had close contact with President Joe Biden or the First Lady. Lately, there's been an increase of positive COVID-19 cases among White House staffers.
Grosile MP Kenson Casimir has disclosed that the eagerly awaited resumption of the Grosile Friday Night Street Party is on course for this Friday. The marquee attraction was one of the main items down for discussion at the latest meeting of the Cabinet amid concern for a slight uptick in COVID-19 cases.
There has been talk in some circles about a cancellation or postponement due to the recent rise in COVID cases. Speaking to reporters on Monday during the pre-cabinet meeting press scrum, the sports minister says the SLP administration is proceeding in accordance with the pandemic-related public health guidance, as well as interests of key stakeholders impacted economically by the crisis.
Everything is subject to the conversations, the negotiations that we have undergone. I mean, we are a government that continues to do everything in a responsible fashion. We've had a number of rumors circulate in the community that we are no longer going to have Grosile Friday night. I can tell you, as the minister and the member of parliament for that area, we are seeking to host Grosile Friday night in a safe environment, as safe environment as possible. Let's face it, we have mass crowd, we have activities ongoing in St. Lucia right now. That is just the reality. I, as the parliamentary rep, want to see the vendors get some semblance of relief, and that is all it's about.
Casimir made it clear that the desire to spur economic activity at the grassroots level should not be misconstrued as blith regard for public health. He stressed that safety is paramount, leaving the door open to tweaks to the breadth of the activity.
This government is always concerned about how we protect our people, how we keep them safe. So today we'll be having some thorough discussions on exactly how we institute a Grosile Friday night that is as safe as possible. My position has been a number of vendors have been suffering for over 2 years, unable to ply their trade and provide basic amenities to their families. And so with the activities we see island-wide, as the parliamentary rep for Grosile, I would obviously want to see that the vendors can make some livelihood for their family. And so we are having discussions today, and Grosile Friday night is going to happen.
Bahamian Prime Minister Philip Davis says the mask mandate in place could soon be lifted in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We have a report from Eyewitness News.
By some of us all, and even sooner.
It's something that Bahamians and hotel operators have been waiting to hear for months now, as COVID-19 infections have plummeted when compared to infections around this same time last year. As soon as the Davis administration took office, it began with rolling back COVID-19 restrictions imposed by the Minister administration, and that's because the Prime Minister says he's always trusted that Bahamians knew how to weather the pandemic without restrictive safety protocol.
And we always believe that the Bahamians could live responsibly, and that's what we're seeing, the result of that. We just needed to trust the Bahamian people, which we have done.
In that vein, there are more restrictions to be lifted in the coming months, he says.
Right now, outdoors, it's been relaxed. It's only indoors until we are sure that some of the indoor venues could have what I call proper air ventilation.
Hotels have suggested government consider lifting testing requirements to travel to the Bahamas, but the Prime Minister isn't minded for the country to take that leap just yet.
Well, as the lockdown in Shanghai enters its fourth week, China's capital, Beijing, is also bracing for a potential surge of COVID-19 cases as authorities there roll out a plan to test 90% of the city's 21 million residents.
Beijing authorities say they found cases in 8 new districts across Beijing, bringing that total of 80 coronavirus cases identified here in the capital since Friday. So what that means is that this mandatory testing order has been extended to more districts and basically will cover most of the people living in Beijing. And that includes more than 20 million people who will have to go for mass testing. So far, they've tested about 4 million in this initial round, including myself and our team as well, and we're still waiting on our results from that initial test. Now, here's the thing. We won't have to do tests just once this week, not twice. We'll have to do these tests 3 times before the weekend. And I think that's in recognition that this is the highly infectious Omicron strain, and it's very difficult to catch at times. Now, after all those test results, after those 3 rounds of test results are discovered and collated on the weekend, we're expecting on Sunday that authorities will make a judgment call as to whether there will be any lockdown or any further restrictions imposed.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for Moscow and Kyiv to work together to set up aid and evacuation corridors in war-torn Ukraine. He made the plea during a face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
President Putin has called what's unfolding in Mariupol a difficult and tragic situation and said he hopes that talks with Ukraine would yield positive results.
There are no military actions being conducted in the Azovstal steel factory. We heard from the Ukrainian government that there are civilians inside the compound. In that case, Ukrainian military personnel are obliged to let them go. The simple thing is, with regards to evacuating those people, Mr. Secretary General, you have been deceived and misled. Over 100,000 people have left Mariupol. They can go anywhere they want. Some people want to go to Russia, some to Ukraine.
We need to work together with the armed forces of Russia and the armed forces of Ukraine so that we can resolve the problem. This would be an initial operation to evacuate civilians from the factory. Russia has constantly accused that this evacuation was never carried out. Russia also declared that safe passage has never been used to evacuate those civilians.
We have a further report now on what else came out of that meeting.
According to the UN statement, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed in principle to an agreement that would see the United Nations and the International Committee for the Red Cross facilitate the exit of those civilians that are held up in the Azovstal steel plant. And this evacuation would, of course, be with the coordination of the Russian Defense Ministry as well as Ukrainian officials. According to this statement from the United Nations, the Russian President and the Secretary General have agreed to conduct a follow-up discussion with the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, as well as the Russian Defense Ministry. So seemingly the impossible task of achieving any kind of a resolution to any of the ongoing crises that are happening in Ukraine has been achieved for now in theory by Antonio Guterres. Now, we understand that this meeting that lasted 2 hours between Guterres and Putin was seemingly cordial, and they had a lot to discuss. And prior to that meeting, the 2 men spoke briefly. The Russian president saying that he valued the core principles of which the United Nations was founded on, and Russia, as one of the founding members, will continue to support this organization and the important work that it does. He acknowledged that the UN is tasked with resolving crises that occur urgently around the world, and this situation in Ukraine is certainly one of them. For his part, the Secretary General did not mince any words. He held his ground firmly when addressing Vladimir Putin and reaffirming his belief that this so-called special military operation by the Russian forces is very much an invasion as far as the United Nations is concerned, based on their charter, and it is the Russian forces that have invaded sovereign territory as a result of what they believe to be a just cause. But regardless, he said that they view it as an invasion. Now, the two men also discussed, of course, the ongoing negotiations that are taking place between the Ukrainian and Russian side. And the Russian president said that although he believes they are at a standstill or a dead end at the moment, there's still hope that they will achieve something in the end. And they, in that hope, are continuing the daily discussions between the two sides.
Well, coming up at 6:30 this morning on Morning Barbados, you can join me for a look at the Safety Awareness Day by the St. Michael Northwest District Emergency Organization. They're asking a relatively open question: did you know? And so Dr. Elizabeth Ferdinand, who's working to coordinate that event, will talk to us about what we can find out when we ask the question, did you know? We meet a young woman today who said she has returned to her first love, her journey of faith. She'll share her inspiration through the pages of her book in just a little while at 6:30. And with Mother's Day just moments away, there's an exciting activity that you can engage with for your mother. We'll share that with you too when you join us for Morning Barbados. But still to come, the Prime Minister says plans are in place to secure the future of Harrison Point. We'll share that and more on the Morning Report. Harrison's Point should be maintained as a medical facility. The suggestion came from Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley during debate in the House of Assembly yesterday. She called for a partnership between local and international investors to secure the future of the facility.
This government and any future government must not allow that facility, which has now been used three times in the last 30 years, to fall into a state of dilapidation again. And therefore, what must be done, in my view, is a strategic partnership either with other local and international private sector players to maintain Harrison's Point as a site for medical tourism as we go forward, even as we get out of the management of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Prime Minister said Harrison's Point is conducive for major development and we should be looking at the bigger picture, not only for the north of Barbados.
The air is fresh, the view is therapeutic, and quite frankly, it is nestled on that part of the island where it is not the subject of bustling traffic and activity. And I believe, therefore, that a combination of a site there and a site at the St. Joseph Hospital will bring the provision of healthcare services to the north, but not just simply for the north or for Barbados. Barbados must not limit itself to its population with respect to the provision of medical services.
Minister of State in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Sonia Brown, wants the old St. Joseph Hospital building used in a way that all Barbadians will benefit. Speaking during that debate on the resolution to vest in the UWI Caville campus the lands on which the old St. Joseph Hospital now stands, Dr. Brown said it could be through the expansion of the Faculty of Medicine. She says, however, it is done, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital especially needs help given the recent explosion in cases of chronic non-communicable diseases.
I would like to see it built out such that efforts are put into the teaching of the individuals at the hospital, whether it be the nurses and the hospital and the other healthcare institutions. We are badly in need of specialized medical services, specialized nursing in almost every area, specialization of the doctors, and by this I mean the funding or providing the courses wherever necessary.
The UWI Caville campus is working on a number of strategies to increase its revenue base. One of them, according to Education Minister Kay McConney, is monetizing its ideas, that is, finding ways to make money from the research and other pieces of academic work done there. Minister McConney says this, along with a special purpose vehicle, will go a long way in helping the campus to improve its financial position.
The University of the West Indies has made it very clear that where it wants to go is towards what it is calling a revenue revolution, where it is moving from its dependence on government for the most part for financing, and it wants to take the institution over the next several years to a place where it can become more revenue generating and more self-sufficient and financially independent. The vesting of this land contributes to that greater strategic vision for the University of the West Indies.
Shimron Hetmar and Rajasthan Royals moved to the top of the IPL table with a 29-run victory over Royal Challengers Bangalore yesterday. The Royals posted 144 for 8 after being asked to bat, with Rian Parag top scoring with 56 not out off 31 balls, while Hetmar was dismissed for just 3. Josh Hazelwood took 2 for 19. The Royals shot out RCB for 115 in 19.3 overs as Kuldeep Sen took 4 wickets for 20 runs, while Ravi Ashwin got 3 for 17. Some highlights. As am I, and so let's share with you now what the Met Office says is in the forecast for Barbados today and tonight. At the moment, 25.8 degrees Celsius under cloudy conditions. The winds are coming from the east-southeast at 11 kilometers an hour. Heading to the seas today, there's a low tide at 13 to 8 this morning, with the second low tide at 2 minutes after 8 this evening. The singular high tide is at 6 minutes to 2 this afternoon. Seas today are predicted to be smooth to moderate in open water, swells ranging from 1 to 1.5 meters and steady. So Barbados today, look out for it today and tonight. Mostly cloudy to overcast with periods of rain, occasional scattered moderate to heavy showers, and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. It's going to be one of those kinds of days today. Here's a look at some forecast conditions for international cities. And that's it for today's edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, April the 27th, just one day away from Heroes Day. Tomorrow's a public holiday. Sure, a number of you are going to be sleeping in a little later, but grateful for your company as always on a Wednesday morning. I'm Pearson Bowen, and a very special good morning to all of you everywhere. For those of you joining us on our Facebook streams, thank you, and your comments are always welcome, so feel free to interact there. We'd love to see what you're saying, so we perhaps can share what you're saying as well. Now, this morning coming up, we'll be sharing with you what the Caribbean Society for HR Professionals are planning. They're having a big regional conference. They're pulling together some great minds in HR practices so that we can develop our peoples of the Caribbean. We keep hearing the call for productivity, but HR is a central part of that move, and so we'll hear from them what are the efforts that what are the targets they have set in sight to make that difference as well. Also today, Dr. Paul Rouse, our urologist, will share with us some recurrent urinary tract infections, a range of them, and some solutions. I'm sure you just don't want to hear about them. You want to hear what you can do about them and what are the outcomes and what are ways that you can relieve yourself of any urinary tract infection. Christchurch Parish Church are having a very special Mother's Day activity. We will share that with you too as well. And so much more. Plus, a chance for you little ones. Yes, indeed, we have a glorious time yesterday. Spell It is back today. And I have a very easy word, so you can get a chance to win some product with Pediasure. But let's get going this morning by hearing about the work of the St. Michael Northwest District Emergency Organization and what it is that they're doing to raise awareness about safety. Joining us to talk about that and a whole lot more is the coordinator of that activity for the St. Michael Northwest District Emergency Organization, Dr. Elizabeth Ferdinand, a very familiar face to us. Dr. Ferdinand, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, everyone.
I don't know where you find the time to do all of this.
You're right. I have to squeeze everything in. But let me say, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I really want to inform the public of what the St. Michael Northwest District Emergency Organization is doing. Is going to be having a wonderful day of activities on the 28th of May, not tomorrow, not this Saturday, but in May the 28th, and it's going to be held at the Deacon's Hard Court. And I'm hoping that all of you will come out between the hours of 10 and 1:30 to really understand and to learn how to prepare yourselves and your family and your home for the upcoming hurricane season, but also for any other type of emergency that might occur.
And that's important. I'm glad you phrased it in that context. Yes, the hurricane season, but any other type of emergency that might occur. I'll start with the hurricane season first. We've been getting a lot of rains recently. We've already seen reports of flooding, and there are lots of things that we can do to mitigate against any adverse outcome as a consequence of what is a natural element, which is rain. So in what way will this sensitization about safety awareness, raise my awareness about what to do or what to do to prepare for the hurricane season and what to do even during the hurricane season? What are the activities?
Well, there are going to be several different agencies present, like the fire service, the police, sanitation service authority, even insurance company, the Cooperative General Insurance, the Barbados Water Authority, and of course the Ministry of Health. And we, with my other hat, my main hat,
Yes.
with the COVID vaccination bus, we will be there also to give advice, to also administer vaccines, and to just generally take part in the activities.
So it's an awareness, an information sharing session, but it's also a practical session as well, because you'll get to not just have face-to-face engagement with the professionals, but you can actually try it yourself so that you are ready. One of the things that we tend not to spend more time on is, CPR. When those emergencies occur, how do we respond to that? When a relative suffers from a heart attack, for instance, how do we revive them? When a relative is choking, how do we assist them at those kinds of points? Is that also going to be part of it?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, because
Okay.
that's a more specialized area. But what I think people need to know is how to do basic first aid. In other words, if somebody is bleeding, how do they stop the bleeding? If they're choking, a quick something. But I'm not sure whether the police or the fire will be working on that. But I think they're mainly looking at, if you're going to a shelter, you have to first of all decide, are you going to go to a shelter if you need to? And what are you going to take? And what are you going to expect when you get to the shelter? And I look at it from the point of view of health, of course. And of course, now that we're into the COVID epidemic, what are we going to do when we're all bunched up and collected in a shelter? So first of all, I must say you need to be vaccinated. And you can't wait till the day of the hurricane to get vaccinated. You need to start now. So you get your first shot, then your second. Now we have to do a booster, and there's a possibility of a second booster. So all of these things need to start now, not wait until June the 1st. And I think the Water Authority will be telling you about how much water you need to store, and the fire, how to protect your property from fires and dangers like that. So it's going to be a really fun day. It's going to be an information sharing day. And I hope that not only the people, anybody can come down and visit and take part in that day of activity.
Just to remind you folks, it's on May the 28th on the Hardcourts and Deacons. Hardcourts, Deacons, Hardcourt there, and from 10 in the morning till 1:30 in the afternoon. All of that you can get the information on. I want to tip your other hat, if you don't mind, as National Co-Coordinator for the, I know you made the appeal recently because there's been a falling off of the number of people who've come forward for vaccination. I think people are getting comfortable and complacent. But the reality is COVID is still very much present, and we have seen these very strong variants that are even more virulent than we've met before. Let's again remind people of why it's so important to make the decision to go have the vaccine.
Well, first of all, to get the first series, which is the first and second dose, is important. And a lot of us had it before, but we need, as the time goes on, your immunity or your ability to fight the infection goes down. So that is why you need a booster. And we have been giving boosters 6 months, the first booster, 6 months after your first series has been completed. Now we're finding that because, as you said, Pearson, the variants are becoming stronger, more virulent, and more infectious. And because of that, now we have to give a second booster. And that is also on the cards. But the importance is that we find that even though you have been vaccinated, you can still get COVID. But the seriousness of that infection is much you when you are vaccinated. And even if you look at the figures of those who have passed, you will realize that a lot of them have not been vaccinated. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that because you're vaccinated, you can't die from COVID. I would be silly to say that. But the vast majority of people who do get COVID after they're vaccinated, they get a mild attack, they get better in a couple of days, and even if they have comorbidities, it doesn't seem to affect them. So I am saying, please go forward. Even at this late time, you can still get vaccinated. We have vaccines, and you can come forward and you will get your vaccine.
And it's so much easier now than in the earlier stages as well, because the line goes very quickly. We've perfected the ability to be able to do this very efficiently. So it's little to no time. I've had mine. I'm now due for my booster. And I can tell you for a fact, folks, it is my familiar phrase, easy weasy Japanese. You just go right through, and in no time you're treated with care. The nurses who dealt with me treated me with care, took my vaccine. You spent your few 15 minutes while you're waiting for assessment, and you're off. And then you repeat it for your second shot, and you're off. I've had no side effects at all from any or after effects. So it's a very safe process that you can engage with. And it's so important that you don't start telling yourself, but I'm diabetic, so therefore I should not go. That's nonsense. It's Lord forgive me for having said it. I'm sorry, I'm not preaching at you folks, but you get the idea. Don't let your own simple fears prevent you from protecting yourself against this very virulent virus. What do you say to those who have those kinds of concerns about being diabetic, having this condition or that condition? What do you say to them?
People, I'm saying you are the ones who really and truly need to have your vaccine, because if you catch COVID, there's a strong possibility that you will get complications, and even that can lead on to death. So you are the people who we are really, we're targeting everybody, but those people who say, oh, well, I have diabetes or I have blood pressure, I'm taking medication, you are the ones who need to have it more than other people who are healthy. Okay, and of course the older people, they are more susceptible to having complications and dying because we're old and we're fragile. And we need to have that extra protection.
So it's important, folks, that we do get out there and be vaccinated. And the more of us who are vaccinated, it creates a greater buffer against the virus as well, and it creates a safer society. That's what we're talking about here, being also aware of our own safety. We bring it back to what we're talking about May 28th, where we're encouraging everyone to come on down and not just be aware of fire safety, hurricane preparedness and the like, but also protect yourself. Be safe yourself from the coronavirus as well. And there, as you said to us, Dr. Ferdinand, there will be the bus there on the day to conduct vaccination as well. So if you're still trying to figure out where to go on the 28th, there's a bus there for your booster and your second shots and so forth as well. On the hard courts at Deacons from 10 in the morning to just about 1:30 in the afternoon. Dr. Ferdinand, I want to thank you so much on behalf of the St. Michael Northwest District Emergency Organization for the invitation. And we really hope that many people do come. They'll come to hear from those experts of the Barbados Police Service, Fire Service, Sanitation Service Authority, the Ministry of Health, Barbados Water Authority, Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited, their blood pressure and cholesterol checks. And I must tell you, having myself suffered from it, I'm telling you, it's important to know your blood pressure. It's important to know that, because you could find yourself, as I did, lying on your back in a room with machines hooked up to you. You don't want that. So let's all take greater awareness of our own safety, personal safety and physical safety as well. Dr. Ferdinand, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Much success with this going forward. May the 28th, Deacon's Hard Court, 10 in the morning. We'll take a break here. We're coming back to talk HR and the big upcoming conference. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're just about 13 and a half minutes now to go to the hour of 7 o'clock. And I like what my friend Joan Underwood says here. She says, the countdown is on for the Loud Conference 2022. Join our colleagues from Barbados and throughout the region as we gather in person and virtually for exciting, informative and developmental interactions. That's because the Caribbean Society for HR Professionals, they're having a virtual conference on the 11th to 13th of May this year. Joining us as we hear a little bit more, and I can hear the dog barking already, I love it, is Tracy Ford Kaplan, who is the Barbados representative for Loud 22. With her is Gerard Best Mitchell, who's going to be a keynote speaker at that conference, and Rochelle Reed James, the Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Society of HR Professionals. Good morning, each of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. You know protocol, we start with the Chief. So Chief, let's talk a little bit about what we can expect and why are you having this seminar under the theme Loud 22 Target in Sight. Why that theme and what are the targets you're trying to reach?
So what we're most excited about with C# is that every time we put on a conference, an event, a webinar, a seminar, we don't sit in a room and come up with the idea, we reach out to our members. So we have been consulting with HR professionals across the region for days, weeks, months. And the feedback that we've been getting is when they attend seminars, when they attend conferences, they want to leave with targeted insight to help them improve how they work and how they serve their organizations. So that is what this conference is going to do. I know Gerard is going to get into his presentation, but that is a prime example of what we're going to be covering at the conference. We have keynote speakers that will be focusing on 4 things to go with that loud theme. So there is let's be limber, let's be open, let's be uneasy, and let's be dapper. Now, if you were born after the 2000s, you might not know what dapper means, but if you come to the conference, you'll find out.
Now, why those 4 core areas, though? Clearly, from where you sit, you see the need to address these. So what's the state of HR and just employment across the region that made you think that these are 4 critical areas that need addressing by HR professionals?
So, since COVID-19, there's been a seismic shift in just the way we operate in business and also the way we serve as HR professionals. When COVID-19 hit, companies across the world and across the region specifically looked to HR. They looked to HR for support. They looked to HR to support the navigation of it. And we were able as HR professionals in some cases to pivot and to shift. Now, COVID-19 is not the only thing on the horizon that is going to change the world of work. And we've learned some valuable lessons. And the idea of the conference is to bring those lessons together so that we're not just looking at best practices, but I've heard the term recently, better practices, and sharing from each other actionable insights to help us improve for the next seismic shift, but not just one that is on a global scale, but one that might be centralized to your company.
Gerard, I hope that she hasn't delved into your keynote speech because, she said so much already. What else are you going to be talking and focusing on when you speak as a keynote speaker?
So, morning everybody, and my section is Let's Be Open. So, shout out to CSHRP for reaching out to me on this. I think what's really funny about this is that I'm actually not an HR professional. However, my only qualification I have is an HR diploma because I'm a sales professional. And one thing I remember years ago when I did this was, in order to be better at sales, you need to understand people. And because, again, as she said, COVID-19 has made a massive impact in how we operate as an organization. HR is the heartbeat of an organization. They're the soul. So we need to ensure that we are not staying rigid in what we do, but we have to be open and understand that as our entire, and keep this in mind, the pandemic happened to everybody. So we have to be open to the changes in how people are in order to adapt to be better for our employee, for the employees that we serve, and for the organization that we assist. So for me and my talk, I'm very excited to be sharing on some of the key things that I believe HR professionals should be doing. I'm going to be stressing a lot on LinkedIn because that is a major platform that I utilize. And because of where it started, I think HR professionals should be even more vocal on it, because that's one of the main channels that they can actually utilize to improve what they're doing for their organizations.
What you seem to be saying to me is, in whatever you do as an HR professional, it can't be about you. You must take time to hear what the other individual is saying to you so that you can better respond. And you're asking me, therefore, to put aside my prejudices, my misconceptions, my own feelings on a particular matter, really, to be able to respond to the needs of my employee.
Yeah, and the reason why I love the open aspect is because it's important for every HR professional to look at themselves and say, what can we do different? What can we look at that we may have been hesitant to do before, but now it's too overwhelming to ignore when it's standing right next to us, that we need to try and do something, even if it might fail. Because at least the point is we tried something, we did something for the organization, and now we could actually report back not just our management, but our employees, and say, listen, we did X and Y, but it didn't work out. We want to try a different avenue. I think that's one of the key things that they need to be comfortable with when they want to be open, is that you may fail, but I think what's even more exciting that they should be open is that you can actually succeed in a massive way that makes a huge impact in the organization. And from what I keep seeing throughout the region right now, and again, it's just interacting with different people, HR has a massive challenge simply because persons now are looking for different job opportunities. In a lot of islands, there's a brain drain because people are leaving to go to jobs in other countries. So by you being able to implement stuff that shows that you care for the employees in an organization, which is a significant factor versus the amount of salary some persons are paid, you can actually have a massive impact on what your organization does in 2022.
Rochelle, he's only one of the keynote speakers. He sounds so exciting that I would want to be a part. I'd want to be a part of it indeed. So is it open to anyone, or do I have to simply be an HR practitioner to be a part of it?
No, once you are a people leader, once you work in a business and you interact with people in some way, shape, form, or fashion, this conference is for you. Like Gerard mentioned, he is not core HR, right? He might have had at least a certificate in HR. That's good, that's excellent, and that he saw the insight to go and get that. But it is not a prerequisite. And many of our speakers and presenters outside of our keynotes come from different sides of the work world, yes, right? And the intent is for them to we're packaging all this content, all this knowledge that you can apply in different ways. So it is designed by HR professionals and people professionals, but it is intended for people professionals and people leaders in every sense of the term.
I like that term, people professionals, like Tracy Ford Catlin. Tracy, you are to yourself a people professional. You're from Barbados and you're going to be joining the conference as well. Which area do you think you have greatest interest in?
With regards to the conference, I'm looking at generating the awareness in Barbados throughout the HR professionals. Our theme is LOUD. And LOUD stands for leadership, opportunity, unity, and diversity. So we're trying to encourage the local HR professionals to, think outside the box, not be in a bubble anymore, because a lot is happening globally. I mean, there's the pandemic. So there are a lot of HR issues that would have come up throughout the pandemic, navigating a hybrid workforce. We are looking at ways where we can encourage HR professionals to identify the HR trends and work with them, etc. And with regards to the conference, I am actually working closely with the committee to try to gather sponsorship, encourage the local HR professionals to be part of the conference. We would have recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the local HR association, HERMAD, yes, and that. Right, so it's a dual membership where they have access to webinars, labor laws throughout the region, access to the conference at a discounted rate, and to keep abreast of HR trends. So
just
that's basically my role.
Yeah, just to show off a little bit on our two other guests. Tracy, we have it going on here with the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados, a very active association. And, I'm sure that the membership themselves are eagerly excited to be a part of this. So for the Barbados membership, Tracy, Do they pay this? Is it, first of all, is it by subscription? Do you have to pay? And if so, do they get a discount because they're members of HERMAB?
Yes, yes. They will receive a discounted rate as a member of HERMAB. Yes. That's
Good.
that's part of the agreement with the memorandum of understanding, sorry. And I must add though that because the conference is in Barbados, we wanted a little cultural experience. So the decor will be in a cultural experience. And for the first day of the conference on May 11th, we are having Mighty Gabby, our local cultural ambassador.
The most honorable, as a matter of fact.
Exactly. Yes. My apologies. Yes. So he will be opening the conference with a couple songs. We also have Senator John Rogers, I think that's the name. Yes. He will be opening it with prayers. The second day we have a very young upcoming poet, Adrian Nurse, very creative. And the last day we're using Rama Cook, comedians. So, everyone is excited to be part of the entertainment, be part of the sessions, be part to hear about the experts. So we're very excited that it's in Barbados. And Barbados was voted as the next location to have the conference because last year it was in Jamaica.
Okay, there we go. See, so we're making strides. And back to you, Rochelle. I would have to consider myself a people professional. I'm not an HR professional. I'm very much like Gerard, not an HR practitioner. But because we deal with people, we have to interact with people, we manage people, we supervise people. This is such a critical thing that we should engage with. And I want to encourage all supervisors, managers, mothers who manage households as well. Perhaps this is for you too. People, once you're dealing with people, this is so critical that you engage with it. Now, one of the areas you're looking at is let's be uneasy. Who wants to be uneasy? And when you say that, what do you think you're trying to achieve from that?
So if you're thinking of the word complacency, right? There is a thought of being static, not willing to move, kind of like a mule and a little bit stubborn. And sometimes when it comes to business, we are, and whether we accept it or not, as Caribbean people, we do tend to be a little bit uneasy when it comes to change, when it comes to transformation, when it comes to newness. And especially if it doesn't come with a little music, probably a steel pan or two, we're not as excited to jump on board. But it is this level of comfort with being uneasy. And if everything in our organizations are going okay, are we really comfortable with that? Are we normally associated with transformation and being radical and risk-taking and being so the idea of these 4 concepts is to tie them into each other. So after you've heard about being open and being open to change, then you're going to transition now to being in a place of uneasiness with the comfortable, with the normal, with the standard. So at the end of the day, we don't even want you to be thinking outside of the box. At the end of these 3 days, you have thrown away and burnt that box. And you are thinking in a state of, there's never euphoria. There's always opportunity for better. Always an opportunity for newness.
Great. It's a hybrid of face-to-face and online, and we need to register. How do we register?
So the whole event is going to be hybrid, as you mentioned, and we call it, for those persons who will be attending online, we call it our interactive virtual experience. So don't think you're going to sit behind a laptop all day. It is going to be an amazing 3 days. You can register by visiting our website, cshrpteam.com, or personal invitation to everyone, you can send me an email, rjames@cshrp.com. It is very easy to register. We have many options, especially if you are a member of HERMAB. They are a big partner for us with this conference, as Tracy mentioned. You get a special discount as a HERMAB member. And if you're not yet a HERMAB member, I encourage you to join.
I like the way you said that indeed. I want to thank each of you for really so much for exciting us about this upcoming conference. It's going to be online and in person, folks. It's May the 11th, the 13th. Go to the website, register today, and remember, it's not just for the HR professional. Go to the website, CSHRP, as in Pearson, team, the word, .com. The information is right there on your screen. Look at your screen. That's it right there. Look just, above the logos for the sponsors. You'll see it right there. Register today and get the benefits as well from being a part of Loud. Let's be limber, open and easy and dapper. But most of all, let's be loud. Let's make the change we want to see in our people and in ourselves, of course. So thank you so much, Tracy, Gerard and Rochelle. Much success with this upcoming conference. And of course, we'll keep reminding our viewers and audience about it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You are very welcome. Very welcome indeed. This is Morning Barbados. We'll take a break here. When we come back, the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Let's take a look at the news now. The new COVID-19 numbers have jumped beyond 500. The Best dos Santos Public Health Lab has reported 506 new COVID-19 cases, 226 males and 280 females from the 1,656 tests carried out on Monday. The bulk of the cases, 402, comprised people 18 years and over. There are 90 people in isolation facilities, while 3,330 are in home isolation. Harrison's Point could be maintained as a medical facility. The suggestion from Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley during debate in the House of Assembly yesterday, Tuesday. She called for the partnership between local and international investors to secure the future of the facility.
This government and any future government must not allow that facility, which has now been used three times in the last 30 years, to fall into a state of dilapidation again. And therefore, what must be done, in my view, is a strategic partnership either with other local and international private sector players to maintain Harrison's Point as a site for medical tourism as we go forward, even as we get out of the management of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Prime Minister says Harrison's Point is conducive for major development, and we should be looking at the bigger picture, not only for the north of Barbados.
The air is fresh, the view is therapeutic, and quite frankly, it is nestled on that part of the island where it is not the subject of bustling traffic and activity. And I believe, therefore, that a combination of a site there and a site at the St. Joseph Hospital will bring the provision of healthcare services to the north, but not just simply for the north or for Barbados. Barbados must not limit itself to its population with respect to the provision of medical services.
Minister of State in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Sonia Brown, says the old St. Joseph Hospital building should be used in a way that all Barbadians will benefit. Speaking during debate on a resolution to vest in the UWI KFL campus the lands on which the old hospital now stands, Dr. Brown says it could be through the expansion of the Faculty of Medicine. She says, however, it is done, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital especially needs help, given the recent explosion in cases of chronic non-communicable diseases.
I would like to see it built out such that efforts are put into the teaching of the individuals at the hospital, whether it be the nurses and the hospital and the other healthcare institutions. We are badly in need of specialized medical services, specialized nursing in almost every area, specialization of the doctors, and by this I mean the funding or providing the courses wherever necessary.
The UWI KFL campus is working on a number of strategies to increase its revenue base. One of them, according to Education Minister Kay McConney, is monetizing its ideas. That is, finding ways to make money from research and other pieces of academic work. Minister McConney says this, along with a special purpose vehicle, will go a long way in helping the campus to improve its financial position.
The University of the West Indies has made it very clear that where it wants to go is towards what it is calling a revenue revolution, where it is moving from its dependence on government for the most part for financing, and it wants to take the institution over the next several years to a place where it can become more revenue generating and more self-sufficient and financially independent. The vesting of this land contributes to that greater strategic vision for the University of the West Indies.
Well, that's a look at news until now. We'll have another newscast on radio at 8 o'clock this morning, and next newscast on TV8 is at 12 noon in the CBC Newsday. We'll take a break here. When we come back, more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's time for Spell It with Pediasure. Are you going to spell it in 30 seconds?
Oh, I am absolutely certain our little ones can spell it in 30 seconds. Give me a call, little ones, now on 228-5562 or 228-5563. Those are the numbers to call. I'll give you a word. You'll have 30 seconds in which to spell your word. If you spell it right, you win with Pediasure. And as by now you should know, Pediasure is in the supermarkets. You get the vanilla, you get the strawberry or the chocolate flavors. Absolutely great for your brain development. So we have a caller on the line already. Good morning to you. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I am fine, thank you. And how are you?
Oh, I'm doing marvelously. Thank you for asking. What's your first name?
I did not really went to school yesterday. I went online classes.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Which one do you prefer, face-to-face or online?
I prefer both because face-to-face classes is very fun, especially when you get to see all your friends. But
Yes.
online classes is very safe because you got less of a risk of catching COVID. So I prefer both. I wouldn't say like I love
One more than the
anyone.
other. Well, you're already quite smart. You're thinking sharply. What's your first name?
My name is Shadriana Buen.
Say the first one again.
Shadriana Buen.
Shadiana?
Yes, please.
That's a beautiful name. Do you know where it came from?
My mother just made it up. My mother and dad.
I like it. Your mother's rather creative. What school do you go to? Hello,
Pardon?
Shadia. What school do you go to?
The law school.
At the Lord School, all right. And how old are you?
I am 14.
14. Girl, you're giving me hard work. I have to find a big word for you. All right. Nah, you can handle this word. You can handle this word. All right. You ready for it? Shadiana?
Yes.
Good. Your word is omnipotent. Omnipotent. You got it? Omnipotent. Yeah. Ready?
O-N. Yes, please.
Go ahead.
O-N-M-I-P-O-N-T-E-N-T.
Say it again a little bit slower.
O-N-P-O-N-T.
No, don't let me confuse you. Don't let me confuse you. Let's start again. I want you to take your time and say it slowly. Go ahead.
Omnipotent. O-M-N-I-P-O-T-E-N-T.
I know you know it. That's right. Omnipotent. O-M-N-I-P-O-T-E-N-T. Omnipotent. I love it when you break it down into syllables. Don't you think it makes it a whole lot easier? Shadiana?
Yes.
Didn't you find that it makes it a whole lot easier when you break it down into each syllable and you spell it? Talk to me.
I don't know if you heard my mother just now, but she was like, yay!
Yeah, yes. She's so proud of you. But well done. You stay, don't put down. You stay on the phone. Your mother's creative, as are you, Shadiana, who goes to the Lord School. She's 14 years old. She's correctly spelled omnipotent. Congratulations to you. We'll take some more information from you so that you can get your prize of Pediasure. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. Great for children. It helps in their muscle and bone development, the development of their brain and eye health, and immune support. So get your Pediasure today. That's it for today's edition of Spell It. Tomorrow, be it God's will, we have another word for another child to spell. Oh no, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's a bank holiday, Pearson. Boy, you're getting old. But no, not tomorrow, on Friday. Tomorrow, Friday is, as you know, National Heroes Day. We'll be off the air for that. But we will be back on Friday when we have another edition of Spell It. So well done. We'll come right back with more on Morning Barbados right after this.
That was Spell It, brought to you in association with Pediasure.
More morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
That's right, we're going into our doctor's surgery. We're getting our doctor on the line now. Our friend to Mornin Barbados, Dr. Paul Rouse, urologist, joins us. Good morning to you, Dr. Rouse.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
All right, I just want to examine you. Look the same pretty much, but hey, what's going on here? That's all right. The change is always good, isn't it?
Yes, it is always good.
Good to see you again. Today we want to look at recurrent urinary tract infections. Oftentimes we hear it, but we don't know what they are and what causes them. And I know you're going to take us through that now.
Yes, thanks very much again. I've recently been seeing quite a few patients with recurrent urinary tract infections, and I thought I should revisit this topic again. In that, because it is quite a source of morbidity for our patients. In other words, you get sick, you miss school, you miss work, you miss all your social activities because you're really having a lot of problems with work infections. Most commonly cystitis, but also we can get infections of the kidney. A little bit more common in women than in men, but again, it affects almost every level of every age group of the population, from children, teenagers, right through to adults and elderly as well. So you can see it's a very, very common problem. In the vast majority of cases, it's handled at the general practitioner level. So my GP colleagues will see patients with urinary tract infections, manage them appropriately, and don't necessarily need to come to see a surgeon like myself. But however, there are some cases, especially what we call recurrent urinary tract infections. If we can start the slideshow, that would be really nice. Where you get, we call it recurrent urinary infections, when you're getting 2 or more infections within a 6-month period, or if you get 3 or more infections within a year period. And this helps to identify this subgroup of patients who would more than likely have either what we call a functional abnormality of the urinary system or an anatomical abnormality of the urinary system. So when the infection is involving your kidneys, we call that, the medical term is acute pyelonephritis, and if it's affecting your bladder, we call it cystitis. And I think these names are fairly common out there because unfortunately it's such a common problem. A lot of us might have experienced it throughout our lifetime. Classically, when it's a kidney infection, I either have, besides having pain in the flank area, that's the area in between the lower ribs and the pelvic bone, and it could also be associated with fever, and sometimes you can even see some blood in your urine, general feeling of listlessness, feeling unwell. I think unfortunately everyone knows when you got an infection. You usually, and then if it's related to your bladder or cystitis, usually then you have pain just above the lower part of the abdomen, just above the pubic bone there. We call that the suprapubic area. You have urinary frequency, urgency, and again, sometimes you can see blood in your urine. A little bit less common to have fever with cystitis, but when you do see fever, it usually is a sign of a more generalized infection and a more serious infection. Again, when you have these symptoms, first see your GP. Most cases, they will treat you appropriately and probably no need to go further. It's unfortunately when you have the recurrent infections, that, and especially if it's associated with blood, especially if you're over the age of 40, that's when you really need to have more investigations to make sure that there's no, as I said, no functional abnormality of the urinary system, or there's no anatomical abnormality of the urinary system. When I talk about, next slide please, when I talk about functional abnormality, so this slide here really shows that what we usually would start off with. So this is what we call an uncomplicated urinary tract infection. This is where there's no anatomical or functional abnormality of the urinary system, and a lot of times you then do need to go on to see a surgeon like myself. You can be generally handled at the GP level. Usually most patients will get an ultrasound scan. Once there's no abnormality of the bladder, no abnormality of the kidney, the infection settles promptly after a few days with antibiotics, probably no need to see myself. But if you're having recurrent infections, especially if it's associated with blood in your urine, that's one of the key things. Unfortunately, I see this so often. It's sad sometimes when we've missed the boat in that patients have been having recurrent infections, blood in their urine, several months or even sometimes a few years later, finally getting the correct investigations and finding, for example, more recently I've had a couple of patients with very large stones in their kidneys and stuff, which you're going to need now to have major surgery to remove them, whereas they've been having this problem for several years, and it's probably quite clear they might have had a stone or so, which probably at that time was relatively small and could have easily been dealt with, but now might have to have some more major surgery to deal with that. So that's the real problem we're having with recurrent urinary tract infections. We need to identify that subset of patients that do have these functional or anatomical abnormalities, and therefore would need to, unfortunately, come to see a surgeon like myself or another urologist to have this sorted for them. I'm not sure if you have the other slides with the complicated urinary tract infections. I don't want to really scare people because I know people always get worried. But certainly for the bladder point of view, sort of things that we're looking for is if there's any obstruction of the urinary system. I didn't have a nice slide there. So for us men, it's usually if we have, again, we talk about this gland all the time, an enlarged prostate gland causing you're not able to empty your bladder very well. If you're getting problems with recurrent infections, that is an indication to intervene from a surgical point of view. Other common problems with the bladder is that I see patients with bladder stones, or unfortunately, although it's uncommon here in Barbados, but it still can be a real problem when you do have them. If you have a problem like a bladder tumor or bladder growth, as you can see there on the right-hand side. So those would be the straightforward, complicated bladder problems that I would see. And then if you look at the other slide for the complicated urinary tract, upper tract infection, kidney problems. Next slide, please. Is if you have a blockage of your kidney. So there on the left-hand side, that's an ultrasound showing a blockage of the kidney. We call that hydronephrosis, easily diagnosed with an ultrasound, as you can see there. And if we see that, then you need to come see myself or another urologist, and then we need to do some more investigations to find out why your kidney is blocked. Usually we're going to have a CT scan. As you can see there, the common things that we'd be concerned about, again, as I mentioned, stone disease. Unfortunately, it's really a real problem here in Barbados. And unfortunately not very common again, but do see the odd tumor, probably seeing 1 or 2 tumors a month in terms of kidney, not trying to scare anyone again, kidney cancers. But again, we can deal with that if need be. So these are some of the common things that we can find. But I want to reassure Barbadians that a lot of the times it's just an uncomplicated urinary tract infection, no need for anything, no invasive procedures, but unfortunately we do have those complicated urinary tract infections where there's blockage, there's stone, or there's tumor somewhere along the urinary system, and that needs to be dealt with. Because if we deal with it early, a lot of the times it can be minimally invasive. If it's a stone, we can go up with our laser machine and break the stones up, get the stones out, therefore remove that source of infection. If it's a blockage, we find out why it's blocked. If there's stricture, if there's something else going on, we can deal with it, remove it. And a lot of these things can actually be dealt with now, minimally invasive techniques. I think so. Unfortunately, sometimes it is a tumor or cancer, which then has to be removed. And again, if we catch that early, before it has spread or anything beyond the urinary system, it can be relatively dealt with, and therefore get back to hopefully enjoying a long life.
I want to look at cystoscopy now. That's another area in which, you know, there's treatment. What can you share with us about that?
So when you do have the complicated urinary tract infections, it's a hint that we need to investigate, look at your urinary system in more detail. We will start with a ultrasound, usually for the kidneys. If it shows some abnormality, then you usually go in for a CT scan to look more detail of the kidneys. We can't look at the kidneys directly, so we have to look at them indirectly with the ultrasound or CT scan as indicated. However, with the bladder, it's a lot more readily available. We have our urethra or water passage, and we can pass a small endoscope. Usually it's about the size of a straw, and it's very flexible, it's very bendable, and we can pass that via your water passage and take a look directly at your bladder. As you can see there in the cartoon, you can see the patient's just lying comfortably. In this case, it's a female in lithotomy position. The doctor there is passing the scope, and you can see it's right there on the screen. A lot of patients love that instant visual feedback. I can actually show them what's going on in the bladder. I can say, look, this is a normal bit of your bladder. This is an abnormal bit of your bladder. There's a tumor there, there's a growth there, or you can see a stone in the bladder. I get them to roll around. You can see the stone rolling away, and they go, wow. And you know, you can see clearly that's how it needs to be dealt with. So that's the importance of cystoscopy. It's a very simple, straightforward, minimally invasive technique that all urologists are versed in. It's done in the office. It takes 5-10 minutes. You get up, you go home. You can be reassured. So 80-90% of the patients I see, I can say, look, there's no abnormality. We've checked your system out. It's just an infection. We treat it, and we can go on. We can go into the management a little bit later. Or unfortunately, if there's something like this, I can give them instant feedback. Hopefully, reassure them that it's something that we can be dealt with. So, for example, if it's a stone in the bladder, we can crush that stone. We can laser that stone. Very rarely, sometimes if it's quite a big stone, we might just do a small incision below your belly button. It's just thought we take the stone away in one go. And you can go home for the minimally invasive techniques. Go home the same day. A small surgical operation within a day or two. And similarly for your kidney. A lot of these stones now are dealt with minimally invasive. I think all the urologists here have the laser machines now available, so we can offer these techniques to Barbadians. This is probably the area that I didn't get to dwell on the last time I presented this, where we didn't get onto the management much. As you can see there are lots of things that you can do, and this can all be started at your GP level. Namely, once you go in with a wart infection, your doctor history, you perform a physical examination, perform the relevant investigations, namely an ultrasound if indicated. But some of the simple things is, one of the key things is making sure that you have good fluid intake, again, not only for preventing stones, but preventing wart infections. We really should be avoiding every 4 to 6 hours, passing good volumes. One of the key things is that I tell patients, your urine should be so dilute that it looks almost crystal clear. I mean, it's very difficult, we're very active. It's very difficult to be taken in water and run into the bathroom every 3 to 4 hours because, we just want to get on with our lives. But it's really important, especially if you have wart infections, to make sure that you have a good fluid intake. If you have a history of stone disease, make sure that you're taking in plenty of fluids to flush your system out. Avoiding constipation is very important as well. The bowel is actually a source. A lot of bacteria that get into our urinary tract actually comes from your bowel. All of us carry a little bit of bugs in our distal part of our water passage, the urethra, the opening, but that constant flushing of urine, that's why you need to pee regularly, just flushes those bugs out of our system. They're there for a reason to protect us from other dangerous bugs, but if they get a foothold in your bladder or then even into your kidneys, then they can cause more problems. So that's where avoiding constipation is very important. I highlighted cranberry juice because a lot of people take this, and it's a very good remedy. I can't remember the name of the substance in cranberry juice, but it binds to the bacteria in the urine, and it prevents it from adhering or getting a foothold on the lining of your urinary system. So that's how cranberry juice is very helpful for women, especially as you get older and you start to go through menopause and things like this, where this is where my gynecology colleagues are becoming more important. They will recommend estrogen replacement therapy if that's indicated. But other things is like alkalizing your urine.
Yeah, I mean, we see the whole long list there. We can't go through each of them this morning, but that's one way of management. Then there's the use of antibiotics in our management as well. And that's where, again, in consultation with your GP and with you, a urologist, we can find some of the ways that we can actually treat these recurrent urinary tract infections. There's a lot we learned this morning, my professor. Thank you so very much, again, for re-highlighting the whole thing about urinary tract infections. Something we take for granted and we assume it'll go away. The pain will just with some ginger tea, you know, that kind of thing.
In most cases it does, yeah.
Yeah, and oftentimes it can be a little bit more deep, a lot deeper than we actually think it is at first sight. So we need to check our GPs and then perhaps check our urologists as well. Dr. Paul Rouse, thank you as always for sharing with us on Morning Barbados. Looking forward to seeing you again soon, sir.
Okay, good morning, Barbados.
Indeed. We'll take a break here. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Bye, guys. Thanks very much.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
One of the most difficult things as a presenter is to not know about what you're speaking and to not know to whom you're speaking. That is so difficult as a presenter to do. Is that where we're going? My producer, can you direct me on this? We're going to the mystery guest at the moment? All right, so I am in a state of total discomfort because I have no clue what I'm talking about now or to whom I'm speaking. So let's see. Mystery guest, can you reveal yourself?
Welcome back.
Sean, how are you, girl?
I am good. Listen, your people mischievous.
I like that. I like that.
They said we're not telling him a thing.
They set us up yesterday. I asked them, okay, what's on the show for tomorrow? They said, oh, we have a mystery guest for you. I said, okay, no problem. But I figured that they would write something on my notes so that I'm aware. They put nothing, Joan. So good to see you.
Same here, but they thought you figured it out because apparently you called my name earlier this morning.
I did, but I didn't know. I because I was reading, you know me, I'm following your little notes that you send from time to time, and it tied in beautifully with what we were talking about with the other folks in the Caribbean Society. So I thought, let me just quote Joan this morning because after all, she's my friend. And not knowing that I would see my friend in the flesh this morning. You've been well?
I have indeed. I miss you terribly.
Me too. I miss you too.
To see you again.
And of course, wherever I go, I talk about you. So, hello. At least they know. But Joan, congratulations, first of all, on ascending to the presidency of HERMAB.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. That means I get to work a lot closely with you.
Exactly, it gives us another platform to collaborate.
Yes, indeed. There's so much I'm thinking, and my producer no doubt is paying very close attention because there are things about which the HERMAB is concerned, and we want to be able to provide a facility where we can talk about it because people development is central to what we do as a society. And with the clarion call recently about productivity, that word has crept right back into our conversation. People are a part of that, and so HERMAB will help to guide us through those kinds of things. I'm grateful for that opportunity with you.
Absolutely. People have to be the center of any initiative where we're talking about enhancing performance and productivity. So HERMAB is delighted. We're looking forward to figuring out the details of how we can
Yes.
partner with you to help and the entire transformation agenda, right? Because people are at the center of any transformation if we want it to be sustained.
I like that you said people, partner, all of those words. Those positive words are so critical. See the three P's coming together one time. But I missed the end of the book. I missed the end of the book. And
well, you know what? Technically, you didn't. Because while we finished the series, we didn't go to the end of the book. Why? Because the end of the book is the epilogue. And so you still have the opportunity to delve into that. And you know the title of the epilogue, Every Winner Was Once a Beginner.
That's right. Every winner was once a beginner indeed. So I was a beginner. I hope eventually that someone thinks I'm a winner as well. But you know, and I'm saying it like that in particular because oftentimes people who sit in positions of supervision or management, they are afraid of feedback. They're afraid to hear what the team thinks of them. And we're saying today, if you want to be better, you need to hear what other people think of you.
Yeah, and we spoke about the Johari window and the fact that we all have blind spots. And one of the ways to shrink your blind spots is to solicit feedback. If you're not open to receiving feedback, then you are handicapping yourself because you can't manage, you can't regulate behavior traits that are not working in your favor if you're oblivious to them.
Yes.
And it's Aristotle that said that self-awareness is the beginning of wisdom. And so feedback is one of the ways that we help to enhance our self-awareness and put us in a position for self-regulation, which ultimately enhances how we show up as leaders.
So true indeed. But you know, the beauty of what you're doing as well as a coach, and I see, I only got this note just now. While introducing you, they pushed it at me. Let me see here. I haven't had the chance to read it at all. Oh, pretty much got it. I got it. You so quickly had to take all of these words and no, you can't see on your screen and assimilate all of it indeed. So, as I said, the series I want to start with you, though, with as it relates to HR and HERMAB, is to really delve into that. And I think this is what they're trying to give to me this morning, is something I think is absolutely critical. And you're quite right. We need to know better as practitioners of people professionals, which is what I heard this morning. I like that term, Joan. I love the term. As people professionals, we must be able to do better. We must be able to raise our standards. We must be able now to interact with people, to be as open as we can, to hear, to know, to understand better so we can respond more appropriately. We must be comfortable to be uneasy. Because if we know better, we are required to do better. Being uneasy is not the most uncomfortable position to be in, but it's one that revs up the energy that says, I'm going to make a change. This is making me uncomfortable enough to want to make the change. And we can all reach that little bit of nirvana.
The bottom line is, there's no learning, there's no growth in your comfort zone.
Yes.
So we all need to be willing to step outside of the comfort zone in order to achieve that learning and that growth. And you know, we would have spoken previously about the importance of building relationships, the importance of empathy, the importance of seeking first to understand and then to be understood. And so those are all themes on which we can expand. And in an earlier segment, you spoke to my colleagues from C# about the upcoming conference. And so you may have noticed that HERMAB is one of the sponsors. So we're delighted to be partnering with C# for the second annual Loud Conference. And as you would have heard and carried earlier, it runs from May 11th to 13th. On May 11th, HERMAB is going to be taking center stage because that afternoon, we're actually leading a panel discussion. And very along the lines that we've been talking about this morning, Pearson, we have chosen to focus in that panel discussion on building partnerships between HR and the organization in order to drive performance. And so the chair of our Industrial Relations and Labor Management Committee, Lionel Maxwell, will be organizing that panel, and we will be bringing different perspectives, because we can't, as HR practitioners, restrict the discussion just to ourselves.
Yes.
We need to invite partners. So we need to hear from employers. We need to hear from the government, who's responsible for regulating industrial relations. So we're inviting folks to join us, whether in person or virtually, for the C# Loud Conference, May 11th, that afternoon, for panel discussion, and indeed for the entire conference. And you would have heard that HERMAB members are entitled to a special discount. Well, I was listening, I didn't hear them say the number, so I'm going to blow that open now, because it's a significant discount. HERMAB members in good financial standing receive a 30% discount on registration.
Wow.
30%.
That's a lot.
So it really is significant, and it is, you know, it's so worth it.
Yes.
So if you're already a member of HERMAB in good financial standing, simply contact us at the Secretariat. We will give you the code that you need to access your discount. But if you're not yet a member of HERMAB, it's not too late to join. So you can contact us about becoming a member of the association and beginning to reap the benefits immediately by accessing that 30% discount for the upcoming conference.
That's sweet, Joan. I'm excited myself, and I'm not a member of HERMAB, but I'm equally excited. I want to give you a chance to acknowledge who else sits on your committee, because you now, as president, you have some other people around you. And I know my production crew wants so badly to share it with everyone as well. So who else comprise your committee?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So if we can share the graphic so that everyone can see the amazing team of professionals that we have to lead HERMAB for the 2022-23 year. So my vice president is Mr. Nicholas Roberts, and Nick served on the prior committee of management as well. And so he's a veteran. Okay, we have in the very important role of treasurer, Alicia Simmons. And then, you know, the secretary is always the workhorse on any executive or board. So we have, Pamela is filling that role for us. Then we have 4 standing committees. They're headed by Atoya Hines. We have Tish Peters, who's responsible for the training and development, which is a very popular committee. We have then Daniel Seeley, who is with Public Relations and Communications, and as I mentioned before, Lionel, who is our key person on labor management and industrial relations. And we couldn't do it without the ongoing help and support and encouragement of our amazing immediate past president. So Brittany is no stranger to you and the folks at PBC. So we're so pleased and grateful for her stewardship in the past, and that she continues to be a member of this new committee of management.
I love it, Joan. Can't wait to concretize our partnership. Of course, you know, my producer will be contacting you so we can work that through. And I can only wish you only the absolute best, you and your committee, as you help to transform HR and transform positivity and productivity on the island as well. The difference we will see real soon. Thank you so much, Joan. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Same here.
There you go. Joan Underwood, now president of HERMAB, the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados. She and her team charged with the opportunity to move the association forward, but also to assist HR practitioners on the island to be more efficient in doing so as well. And we can't wait to hear more as we'll share more throughout the coming weeks as well. Morning Barbados continues now as we turn our attention to the workings of this young lady who has decided she's going to write a book that speaks to returning to my first love of journey of faith. I'm curious about what that's about. Good morning to you, Gaynell Corbin.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados.
How are you doing today, Gaynell?
I'm fantastic, thank you. How are you?
I like you. I'm fantastic too. Thank you so much for asking. I like the title of your book, Returning to My First Love, A Journey of Faith. Now, for me, past the colon, it could mean two things. Either, you've taken a journey of faith that brought you back to your first love, or you have returned to your first love, which is your journey of faith. Which is it?
I've returned to my first love, which is my journey of faith.
Okay. So talk to me about your past, your history. What is it about you that got you, first of all, on this journey of faith? And what was it that took you off the journey that brought you back to?
Well, first of all, let me start with what took me off. I would have to say life challenges, Pearson. Having experienced financial burden, relationship challenges or issues, I was at a place where I needed to strengthen myself. There was a point I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I just had to find that strength. So I returned to Jesus. I returned to God. I was off track, but He helped me to regain that focus. I was able to be, intentional and tenacious. And so those life challenges really showed me that there's more to life than these issues. And that was the main reason then for returning to my first love and moving forward.
Isn't it funny how a lot of times you hear people say, oh, there's no God, I don't believe it, that's just a story. But then when hard times hit, the reality of who He is and what He delivers for you comes right back to your consciousness and brings you back to that first love, because that's who He says, draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. All of those things He promises to provide. And so having come back to your first love, you've seen all of the blessings that He has promised you begin to fulfill, right?
That is correct, Pearson. I have seen God's goodness, God's forgiveness, His faithfulness, and just an overall vision and purpose for my life. So really returning to Him, I really appreciate the success that He's given me thus far in terms of my faith journey.
I think what I'm hearing you to say is there's hope, folks. Sometimes you feel as though you've lost your way, but there's hope. And your book helps us to be able to find our way through it and come back to the hope and the promise that God has in all of us. So this book is available locally, or can anyone who's watching from God knows where in the world also get a copy of it?
I like that, Pearson. God knows where in the world you can definitely get a copy. So Returning to My First Love is available on Amazon. There's a Kindle version as well as the printed version. In addition to that, it's available in-store in Barbados at Days Bookstore, Cloister, as well as Things Gospel. So those 3 locations.
This is fantastic. I like the fact that you've been able to use your own experience to document it and to inspire others, because God has called you to be able to do so. That must make you feel really special, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I have a passion to inspire and encourage persons. So anyone in my immediate sphere of influence, I always encourage them to be better. I strongly believe that you should be better off this year than you were last year, and next year than you are this year. I also strongly hold to the philosophy that your past experiences does not necessarily dictate your future, but on the contrary, it contributes significantly to the success of your future.
Does this book scare off anyone who is not yet solid in their own faith, or is it easy reading that even if you're not a Christian, that you can also benefit from it?
Certainly, if you're not a Christian, you can benefit from it, because in my writing, I pay particular attention to not only Christians, but anyone. It's really a journey to bring persons to their faith, as well as to help persons to renew their faith. So, for example, if you are a Christian, you may be at a point where you are at a loss. Because you're Christian doesn't mean that you do not experience life's challenges. And therefore, this book is really designed to inspire and encourage persons to have a life of infinite possibilities through developing this relationship with God.
I couldn't say it better, Gaynell Corbin. All the best indeed. It's available on Amazon. It's available for Kindle as well, soft and hard. You know, you can get it. And locally, where else? If you want to walk into a bookstore, again, where can we go?
Right, so there you can go to Days Bookstore in Fairchild Street, Cloister Bookstore, that's on Hink Street, Sheraton Mall, as well as Things Gospel on Hink Street, and upstairs Massey Supermarket in Warren. So it's widely available. And of course, there'll be more places coming soon.
Indeed. God is going to lead you into something beautiful. I love your setting, by the way. I just love the room.
Thank you very much,
it's beautiful. Well done. Thank you so much,
you.
Gaynell Corbin. All the best with this book. I hope it really, truly inspires others to not think of themselves, but to turn back to God and let God guide and let God take the lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome. Very welcome indeed. We'll take a quick break here, and when we come back, they tell me no break, Pearson. Keep rolling. And so I'm rolling all the way to Christchurch Parish Church with Mother's Day just days away. I'm sure you're trying to think of, what can I do for mommy? What can I do for mommy? We have an idea. There's something we can do for mommy. And in doing that, this is what we're going to do. Paige Bryan, my friend, my buddy, my old pal, my old co-worker. Good morning to you, Paige.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Now, Mother's Day has rolled around again, Paige. What is it that, I know that Christchurch Parish Church over the years have been finding very innovative ways of still being able to salute mothers, still being able to have your traditional events, but in a slightly different way. So what is it you're doing this year?
This year we are again having our annual Mother's Day luncheon, and as opposed to having the dine-in version, we've determined that we will have the drive-through version again this year until things settle a bit more.
Yes. I mean, if it worked so well before, why not do it again, right?
Yes, and we really, I think we do have it down to a fine art, you know.
Love it, love it indeed. So for those who may not know, let's walk through the art now so that they can all benefit from this Mother's Day luncheon with Christchurch Parish Church. How does it work?
So you get your tickets, you say what time you want to pick up. We have pickup times from 12:30 to 1, 1 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2, 2 to 2:30, and 2:30 to 3. So you determine what time you want to collect. You come to the church, there will be parking attendants who will direct you where to go. And we usually have 3 rows. So we will direct you to a row where you will be met by our runners. Those are the ones who will come to your car, they will take your ticket, and they will go back and they will get the lunch for you. The runners do not go into the prep area. We have other persons there who will take the tickets from the runners and the orders, get the lunch, and bring it back to the runner. So it's really well organized.
And if you have it down to a science, that means I should not be waiting long once I arrive.
No.
If I agreed with you, I'm coming between this period, once I get there, it's a quick turnaround, and my lunch is already packaged. So in getting my ticket though, do I identify to you what it is that I want?
Yes, we have a wide array of items on the menu, but you know, sometimes persons have special dietary needs. So some persons may not eat chicken, some may not eat fish, some may not eat ham. So you say at the time of taking the ticket what it is that you want. So if you don't eat chicken, you might say, okay, fish only, and we will have that arranged for you.
Right. So folks, by the way, tickets are, somebody said they have not heard enough about macaroni pie.
Yes.
Very displeased about it.
No, I will say what's on the menu.
Thank you.
So on the menu, we have green peas and rice, which is an all-time Bajan favorite.
Yes.
We have Spanish rice. We have pickled breadfruit, or you can have pickled green banana. There's macaroni pie. You will have sliced sweet potato, as we would say in the old-time days. This is not to date me. I would have heard my grandmother do this. Stretched out. It's stretched out.
Stretch out, yes.
Yeah. You have beets, plantains, steamed veg, and you have tossed salad. You have ham, chicken, fish, and you have assorted desserts.
Nice.
So it's worth it. It's
it really truly is.
$50.
$50 is what it is. And Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I think that's what I saw on the flyer, are the days on which we can go to get a ticket. Right.
But we have some numbers that you can call. So you can call 243-2375. And I'll say that again, 243-2375. Or you can call 428-8087. 428-8087, where you can order your tickets and we will arrange for you to collect them.
The girl, the way that you speak there, just with those numbers, still doing the banking thing, you know, the first 3 digits, then the last 4.
Yes, ingrained. It's ingrained in me.
It is the banking discipline. 243-2375 or 428-8087. Those are the numbers to call. You can reserve your ticket. Get a ticket, folks. Get a ticket. And in getting your ticket, you identify the menu, the particular menu that you want, and you identify the time that you'd like to do your pickup as well. Most of all, we like you to...
Everything is available on the menu.
Yeah.
Everything is available on the menu, but should you not eat a particular thing, you can say.
Right. But we want you to be on time, because efficiency requires you also to be on time. So if you say you'll be there between X time, then be there. If you can't be there, what do I do?
You can still come and we will still have your lunch for you.
Okay, that's fantastic.
But the pickup times give some order to the process.
Yeah. Now, so that folks understand, this is a fundraiser. And so you're raising funds to assist with the organ, you're raising funds to assist with the bell tower, and other social activities, right?
Yes. So, you know, our building is an aging building. It's been there since 1935. And we do have some challenges with the roof and the bell tower. So we need to effect some repairs to those. And to the organ as well, which has been giving us some challenges. In addition to that, all funds do not necessarily go to the building and to repairs, but we also do some social outreach where we assist those who are in need in our communities. So just, you know, letting the public know what the funds are being used for.
Yeah. It's not to yourself, it's to actually make some great changes to continue to serve the community in which you serve as well. So folks, remember, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday, the office hours are there. We will put the flyer on our social media. If you've missed it, there it is on your screen. $50 a person, and you can reserve your ticket. Of course, you can pay at the office and you can get it. It's a drive-through fundraiser with the theme Spread the Love. It's on Sunday the 8th of May, which is Mother's Day, at the Ivan Herwood Center in Christchurch, at the Christchurch Parish Church. It's a collection, a drive-through fundraiser. So once you've placed your order, between those times that you've identified, you go to collect. And when you collect, you are going to have a very sumptuous meal. Place your orders fast, because I mean, as many as you have placed, I'm sure they'll be able to satisfy you as well. The menu is wide and sumptuous, and I'm sure Paige and her team will happily be able to quick on their feet, so you don't have to waste a lot of time, because you want to spend as much time with mommy as you possibly can. Paige, good to see you again. Thank you so much again for coming up with this great idea, you and your team, and I wish you the very best with this as always.
Thank you, Pearson, and thank you for hosting us.
You're very welcome indeed. Paige Bryan with the Christchurch Parish Church, you know, she and I used to work years ago together in banking. So that's why I can tell you, I referenced the way she called the numbers. That's the way we were trained to do it. First 3, then the last 3. Put a pause, then the last 4. Anyway, that's it for today. I want to remind you about today's webinar, HIV/AIDS, is this still relevant? It's at 11 o'clock Barbados time today, 11 o'clock, with Dr. Alicia Bob Allen and Cecilia Neblett Brathwaite. They're going to be online. You go online yourself and you can be a part of it. Register fast and get there. It's quite an interesting exchange as well. And the Association of Administrative Professionals Day Virtual Conference. That is also today, beginning at 9 this morning, and that you're encouraged to be a part of it, and you can benefit from all of this as well. A lot to remind you of, but a lot to say thank you to all of you for joining me for our crew. To all of you, have yourselves a great day. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.